Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Moletrap here, coming at you with Game 1 of the MSL Semifinals. Can you believe that the Bigfile MSL is almost at the end already? It seems like not that long ago that we were already in prelims, and it's ridiculous. It seems like it's been a very short season for some reason. But we are here in the semifinals, and yes, you are seeing that correctly. This is Flash versus Fantasy. Flash versus Fantasy. Should be a very, very good set here. Flash is going to be the, I didn't see if it was teal or white or something like that. Terran in the top left, and Fantasy is going to be the red Terran in the bottom right. I've heard that this is a very good series from several sources, so I'm looking forward to this. Normally, you know, TVTs, I could take them or leave them, depending on the players, but Flash, Flash's TVT is beautiful. It's just a sight to behold, you know? It's, you know, it's like watching Bob Ross paint fuzzy clouds and happy trees. It's like watching someone create a work of art, watching Flash play TVT. It is just amazing. And Fantasy, not as big of a fan of Fantasy, but he obviously is not just a standard player. He does interesting strategies as well. He's kind of known for playing interesting strategies. Not as much TVT, but he's known for, you know, making up some fun TVZ stuff and stuff like that. And so he also is one to try different things and at least be somewhat creative and somewhat innovative. So I'm hoping for a pretty good series here. You know, TVT sometimes can be just excuse me, long battles with tanks and big lines and just trading dropships and stuff like that. I mean, it's exciting even when it's like that, but you know, it can be it can go on for a while, and then sometimes you end up even with stalemates that just don't go anywhere for a long time. But not expecting that kind of game out of these two players. Flash is going to put down his barracks kind of at the edge of his area there, so that he can immediately lift it and float it towards Fantasy's base as soon as it's done. But you can tell he's going Fantasy. You could tell, I don't know what he seems like he's almost doing a versus Protoss strategy here, building his buildings really in close. And what I think, what I take from that is that I think he's going for just a lot of econ here, a lot of economy. He's not wasting any time with his SCVs, you know, because your SCV spends, if you have your SCV run down to your choke to build your barracks, then, you know, that's a trip of mining, you know, that's 8 minerals right there. And so instead he's having his depot and his barracks right near his base, so he can get those minerals in as fast as possible, get those SCVs back mining as quickly as possible as well, and also send out an SCV very early to scout. So I wouldn't be surprised if Fantasy has something up his sleeve, something he's planning for here, that, you know, sometimes you'll come up with a build and you just absolutely need to get minerals in as fast as possible. Just, you just strain to get those minerals in as fast as possible, cut every single corner to get them in quickly to execute your plan. And so I'm not sure if that's what he has in mind here. Now, this is very interesting. He's got one SCV on gas at the moment. He's built that barracks, he's built a single marine, and then run off with his barracks, and Flash is hiding his SCV. He faked like he read his SCV out. It's hiding at the top of his base so he can come in and scout and see what's going on here. He sees a single factory. He's going to try and scout that gas. He scouts the one SCV on gas, so he's probably going to predict this command center. Yes, and he goes and scouts it just in case. Oh, he's actually going to try and get that. He gets the SCV away, and Flash starting his command center at the same time as well, floating his barracks at the same time as well. So pretty much similar builds here. Well, almost exactly the same build from both players, actually. So very interesting how that worked out there. And Flash also, I mean, I think he might have been planning on that, and he maybe just ran that SCV down there, hit it so he could check to see to make sure there weren't two factories. Because if there was, he might need to do something a little more defensive. At this point, he doesn't need to get a bunker or anything, because he knows that Fantasy has the exact same thing that he has. So he kind of knows what Fantasy is doing. Anyway, so hopefully this game will get more exciting in the future. Second factory going down for Flash. Is Fantasy going to do that, or is he going to go for some kind of starport? No, second factory as well. Anyway, so yes, this last weekend I didn't do any commentaries. I was a little bit busy. I was at Diggity's wedding. Congrats again to Diggity. Mad props to him. And yes, for those of you that didn't hear, I was the best man at his wedding. And, you know, everyone was saying I should, oh, Moltrap, commentate the wedding, blah, 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 do this, do that. So I didn't do anything crazy, but just for all of you, I started off my toast to Diggity, the best man toast, with hello, ladies and gentlemen, just for all you guys. So there you go. Anyway, it was a fun ceremony, and now I'm back, and now I have my new monitor, which I bought last week. And it's come in the mail. It is beautiful. It is gorgeous. I was going to try and do some StarCraft 2 commentaries on my old monitor to save some money, and it was just so pathetic. My old monitor was turning on and off randomly, and I'd have to smack it around to get it to turn on. And then, like, this last week, it started just dying even quicker than before, where the top fifth of the screen was just off. It just wouldn't work. It wouldn't show anything. And then like things started like folding down. Like if you moved your mouse up to the top of the screen, when it got to the top, it would like fold back down on itself and start pointing downwards. It was weird. Anyway, so I got a new monitor and I'm playing some StarCraft 2, and I'm going to be putting up some StarCraft 2 commentaries any day now. I'm still having issues with some recording software, getting it to work, but I might have a workaround, and we'll see. Anyway, it looks like we're going to see a Vulture Fest here. Both players making massive amounts of vultures off 3 factories. Both players running barracks into each other's bases to see exactly what's going on. And both players firing away at that barracks with their single marine. Fantasy should really run in there and like just pick off that marine with a couple vultures so he can save his barracks. It's just the one marine, you know? Anyway, 4th factory down for Flash, but not for Fantasy. Fantasy going for an academy. He's probably fearing wraiths at this point, and he has a little bit less scouting information. He hasn't had his barracks in Flash's base. He had it kind of out in front for a while there, whereas Flash, well, actually Flash didn't have really that information either. But Flash is betting on vultures, and is not going for wraiths. Neither player going for wraiths. Both players getting a tank out and getting siege mode as well. And there's the 4th factory now. Another machine shop as well for Fantasy. Fantasy, you can see, has gotten mines up. Oh, I'm sorry. Of course it wasn't siege mode. It was mines being researched there, along with speed for both players. So you can see Fantasy has a lot of the map, not necessarily map control, but he's got mines everywhere. He's got definitely a lot of vision of the map. He knows exactly what's going on around the map. But he has his forces at home anyway, so he is in good shape. He can just chill at home and know if Flash is coming. Flash does not have as much information along those lines. Anyway, so both players are a little bit worried about wraiths, getting some comsat stations. Also, I mean, the comsat stations, they know that the other player is getting mines, so that's kind of the primary reason, I guess. And Flash getting another base. Here we see the Flash we know and love, who he hasn't been doing this quite as much recently, but you know, Flash usually he wins his TVTs just by expanding like crazy. And when you're not looking, when you blink, he expands. And then when you're like, holy crap, you expanded and I didn't even realize that he expands. And he just out expands because with Terran, with siege mode, you can just turtle so easily. And Flash is just so good at it that he can just get expansions up really easily. As if the other player doesn't catch it immediately and try and do something about it immediately, or even if they do, he can get away with it so easily. So anyway, hopefully siege mode is up for Flash, because I think it's up. Yes, it is up. Here comes some vultures running in. They're going to run away from that one siege tank, nicely positioned, so it has target on that ramp, so it can do a lot of damage to things coming across that ramp beforehand. Flash, did I say Fantasy? I meant Flash. Flash has that siege tank there covering the ramp. Sorry, Fantasy is the red Terran. Anyway, Fantasy trying to put some pressure on Flash. Flash has that 3rd base though, and look, he's moved his barracks over to see if Fantasy has taken that 3rd base also, which he has not. Armory up now for Flash, well, for both players I believe. And here comes Flash trying to push up onto this high ground to protect that new base. He does not want to get caught on the low ground there. It would be a very difficult position, but a lot of vultures. Jeez, that's a lot of vultures. More tanks in play for Fantasy, but Flash with several more vultures. Fantasy comsats to see what's there. He's going to move in. He's going to siege up and try and use that comsat to get some extra hits. Flash sending out his vultures to try and take the hits instead. He's got way more vultures. He's targeting some of the tanks. And he just, oh no, there's like 2 tanks with just 1 hit left on him, and he's falling back. Those tanks are so vulnerable right now. They're almost dead, and Flash just doesn't have the forces to quite finish him off. Is he going to be able to sneak in there and get some mines planted down? Yes, he does get in there close, but now Fantasy has more vultures in there. He's targeting some of the tanks. No! 4 of the tanks survive. 4 tanks survive. Flash getting pushed back into his natural expansion. He's having to run away as SCVs. Are those mines going to kill the... No, oh man, lots of mines going off. SCVs get out of the way just in time. The tank is going to go down to these mines though. Oh no, Flash is in huge trouble. He's trying to keep pushing forward towards this force to try and save that command center. He's had to float the command center. Fantasy in the meantime, basically instead of making that command center, made a little bit more forces and was able to push in and punish Flash. And now in the midst of his victory, Fantasy is able to expand. Flash now finally picking off those damaged tanks that were so damaged. He's finally going to be able to finish those off. Fantasy kind of going a little bit overboard here, pushing his luck, as it were, moving in for further attack. How are these tanks still alive? Yeah, pushing his luck, pushing in so far, and wow. So now Fantasy is going to be up a base. Wow, just as I was getting done talking about how Flash always expands everywhere like crazy and gets away with it, he doesn't get away with it. So I am forced to eat my words, and Fantasy is able to eat some extra minerals over what Flash has. He's going to float that command center back up there, but he lost a lot there. Not as much, not a crippling blow, not quite a crippling blow, even though Fantasy really did a lot there, because Flash can now rebrand that command center and be okay.